Let's now look at how we can use future forms to talk about plans. The good news is that there is overlap. This means sometimes you can use more than one future form in certain situations. As you can see in the Venn diagram, will for plans has no overlap, and we very rarely use it. But with going to and present continuous, sometimes you can use both. And between present continuous and present simple, sometimes you can use both. Look at this diagram here. We can see along the bottom time going from the past to the present and to the future. Where it says present, this is the time when we speak. When we make a plan, we decide to do something, then we start to plan, then we finish the plan, although often it's not necessary to make a plan, and then we do what we wanted to do. We plan vacations, events, and evenings with friends, things like that. If you decide that you're going to make a cup of tea, obviously you don't plan it, you just make it. Let's look at when we use will for plans. As you can see in the diagram, the present is over the X. So we use will when we make a decision at the same time we are speaking. For example, an aunt gives you some money. You think, oh, money. I will buy myself a new jacket. You make that decision at the time of speaking. Using will tells the listener, I'm making my decision as we speak. If you decided maybe last week that you're going to do something for somebody, and they say, are you going to do this for me? And you say, I will do it tomorrow, then they will understand, they didn't remember what they were going to do. They forgot, and now they're deciding. So if you use will, but you decided before, you're giving a totally different meaning to the listener. Therefore, you shouldn't use will. We also use will if we're making a promise or a threat or a declaration. Maybe you did decide before, but for threats and promises and declarations, we can use will. I'll find your dog. I will find your dog. I shall do it later. Now maybe you did plan before, but this here is making a promise or a threat, or you are declaring that you are determined to do it. I shall do it later. If you are refusing to do something, use won't. No, I won't do it. I won't tell you my secret. I shan't do it. Now shan't is more formal English and more old-fashioned. I use it all the time, but that's just me. A promise or a threat is an intention, in other words, something that you want to do in the future, so going to is okay. I'm going to find your dog. I'm going to do it later. But generally, will is more emphatic, which means stronger. But be careful when you use these. Let's now look at when we use going to for plans. We use going to for plans after the decision and before we finish planning. We can use going to 10 seconds after deciding, and we can use it before we start planning, while we're planning, after we finish planning. It really doesn't matter. For example, we're going to get married. It means this is our intention. We want to do this in the future. We decided last week, for example, or perhaps last month, or perhaps 5 minutes ago. It doesn't really matter, as long as we decided in the past to do this in the future. Maybe it's going to happen next month, maybe next year, maybe not for 5 years. Look at this example. I'm going to speak to my father about it. For something like that, of course, you don't need to have a plan, and we use going to in these situations. Let's now look at the present continuous for plans. We use present continuous for plans after we finished planning and arranging. You can see the present line, in other words, the time of speaking, and that is after the plan is finished. Now this plan may take 20 seconds, it may take 5 years. It doesn't matter. If you use present continuous for the future, it generally means my plans are finished. For example, you may decide, I want to see my friend and meet him tomorrow. You call him, Hey Fred, do you want to meet tomorrow? Yeah, sure, what should we do? Let's go to the cinema. Okay, see you at 7 o'clock outside the cinema. That plan took seconds, and for that you would use present continuous. I'm meeting my friend tomorrow. But a big plan like hosting the Olympic Games, that may take years to organize. So what you're saying is, we finished planning, we know where, when, and who, etc. Here are 2 examples. We're coming to visit you next week. Los Angeles is hosting the 2028 Olympic Games. As you can see, that could be in the near future, next week, or later today, or it could be far in the future, like 2028. I've heard some people describe present continuous future as the near future. Well, it isn't. You could use will for today. Oh, I will buy that today. And today's nearer than 2028, but I used will for that example, and that's because I decided at the time of speaking. Now let's look at present simple for plans. This is quite a specialized use, and I call it the timetable future. This is for future actions that are linked to a timetable. For example, a bus timetable, train timetable, when planes go and arrive, maybe for conference itineraries, or for people who make very organized plans. However, using present continuous in these situations is not wrong, but you need to be aware that timetable future exists, so when you see it, you can understand it. If you can use it as well, then that's great. Here's an example. The train leaves at 6 o'clock. This future action of the train leaving the station is linked to the train timetable. Here's another. We leave on the 6 o'clock train. In this example, our action is linked to a fixed timetable. The next example shows somebody talking about very detailed plans for their day. At 4 o'clock, we visit the museum. Then, at 6, we have dinner at the Ritz. At 9 o'clock, we go to the theatre. Let's now do some practice of using future forms for plans. Make sentences with these words using future forms. Sometimes more than one answer is possible. Remember, you can pause the video if you need time to think. I will fix it. Here, the person is giving a promise, or they are deciding now. Or maybe they knew the chair was broken before, and they've already made this decision. In that case, they could say, I'm going to fix it. So you see, there's a difference between going to and will in your meaning. Make a sentence from this. The bus leaves in 10 minutes. It's a future action based on a timetable. Or, the bus is leaving in 10 minutes. Or, the bus is going to leave in 10 minutes. All of those are possible. We're meeting at 10 o'clock in the library. This means we made the plans. We know who's going to be there. We know when. Or, we're going to meet at 10 o'clock in the library. This is our intention for the future, so you can choose which one, and you won't be wrong. I'm going to make some tea. Only going to is possible. You wouldn't organise making tea. You don't need permission. You just decide and then you do it. You certainly wouldn't use will because you made the decision before. That's why you're entering the kitchen. Be careful with this one. Maybe I'll go to the cinema. Notice here the question was going to, but the answer was will. The tenses don't need to match. You use the form that you need. Here, the person asking the question was asking, "Hey, what's your plan?" And the answer was, "I don't know. I don't have a plan." Maybe the person is making a decision now. Maybe I'll go to the cinema. Or perhaps it's a prediction. Maybe I'll go to the cinema. But going to is wrong. The person has no plan. I will save us. This is a promise. Or, I'm going to save us. Another promise. Or, the speaker is saying he has a plan. I won't help you. This is refusing. Or, I'm not going to help you. This can mean this is not my intention. Now you can take a look at the second practice sheet for future forms. Then, as usual, answer the questions and check your answers. You will also find an extra practice sheet as well. Good luck!